Alright, I think this finale is going down in the books, people. That was a good finale. I mean, I got all kinds of emotion, and it just seemed to get worse and worse, and then Wu decides to vote out Kaz, and just... Oh, man. Thank God he didn't vote out Tony. Right. So let's jump into it. It's been a couple of days, so I might not be able to remember everything, but I wanted to watch everyone's videos first, like I always do. Right. So everyone gets back from camp, not much to really discuss there. And then the loved ones show up. Yeah. Jeff was right. I totally wasn't expecting the loved ones to show up because, like I said, they've showed up in almost every season except for Fiji, Blood vs. Water, and then actually Samoa. I forgot that one. But yeah, it turns out they were always going to do it at this time, although doing it this way does mean that it matters a little bit less in terms of the game, but at the same time, it does allow everybody to meet with a loved one, and it does avoid another Brenda fiasco. Yeah, that was tough. Alright. And it was nice seeing everyone interact with their loved ones. Kaz and her husband, he totally seems to respect her as the dominant one in the relationship. Not that the woman being the dominant person in the relationship is really a bad thing. I'm not opposed to that, really, but you know, it just helps us see another side of her. Lets us know that she's kind of like a fierce on the personality outside of the game also. Woo, not much to comment there. Tony, we do get that sob story about his wife, and everybody's talking about the fair play thing. I didn't think that until way after the fact, so that's that. And then Spencer and his sister. Main reason I like that is because you get to see the contrast between them. She's totally pale and he's dark, although we're so used to seeing them on the island we don't think it's dark. Yeah. Although I think Cochrane actually managed to stay relatively dark for quite a while. I can't remember now. Okay. So then we've got that first challenge, and then when Jeff started mentioning that it was immunity, I knew that the rumors about the final two were true, because you don't do an immunity challenge on day 37, wait an entire day, then have a tribal. You don't do that. So, in that challenge, I was amazed that nobody fell off their poles, really, because, I mean, like, I know that nobody fell off the poles in Exile Island, but, you know, everybody was so nervous about it, you would think that it was a given, because that was a fairly stormy or windy day, and when they did that in Exile Island, it was like a perfect day, and everybody seemed to be comfortable on the pole, and then we get that hilarious comment from Shane, "That's never good, is it, Jeff?" And Jeff's like, yeah, like, oh, it's priceless, from what I remember of him. I could easily be proven wrong when I rewatch this season. I need to rewatch it. Okay. So then it looks like it's going to be down to Tony or Spencer again, and I was really hoping that Spencer would win this challenge, because then it would mean him and Tony both make it to day 38, and then the storylines of biggest, you know, conflict, well, not really conflict, but just two very different strategies manages to stay to the end. You kind of get what I mean. But, yeah, surprisingly, Kaz is able to come from behind and win the thing, and I mean, talk about disappointment, because just, you wouldn't have expected that to happen, and it proved what I said in the previous video I made. The fact that it's final two meant that it was going to be a lot harder for Tony and Spencer. So everyone goes back to camp, and then Spencer comes up with a fairly convincing argument that Tony should actually keep Spencer, because if he does, then he's pretty much guaranteed top two, even though Spencer did reveal in several of his interviews that he actually probably would have taken Kaz if he had won that last immunity. And, like, I was really hoping that Tony would take it, not just because, you know, it would keep Spencer in the game, but also I actually believed Spencer at the time and realized that he was right, because if Tony had kept Spencer and Spencer had stayed true to his pitched towards Tony, then Tony would have guaranteed top 2. It all just depended on who won immunity, because Tony wouldn't have won that immunity. No way. Unfortunately. But at the end, Tony decides to stick with his alliance and votes out Spencer. Now, I do understand his reason for doing it in hindsight, but when I first saw that, I was so disappointed because I could tell that Spencer was right. Tony would suddenly become the main threat, even though people had questioned how well he would do in the past. So, just... yeah. And it was a huge bummer to see Spencer go because, you know, he was getting just a great fight to stay alive. We were thinking that, you know, he would make it all the way to day 38, and then he might be voted out, kind of like Malcolm and Ozzy were, although I was rooting against Ozzy, and I was for Denise winning over him in Philippines anyway, not that it mattered which one of them won anyway. I would have thought the same about that season. And then he just, you know, he gets cut short. Now, ultimately, he is right in that he didn't play the most amazing game. It was just his fight to stay alive that kept me interested. Although for a fight to stay alive, he did cause quite a lot of influence in the camp, let me tell you. Because, like, even Tony kept him around just so some of the heat would be off him. And even then, Spencer was partially responsible for Jeffra going, even though a lot of it was Tony and Jeffra. Also, you know? Yeah. So that's that for Spencer. Everybody comes back from Tribal again, and then Kaz reframes what Spencer had said, that Tony's the biggest threat, and then it looks like both Kaz and Wu are turning against Tony, and like I was just sitting here getting more and more depressed because I got the feeling that it was going to be Kaz and Wu final 2, and I was seriously debating if I wanted to continue watching it. And then they fast forward to the day 38 without a last rites, and Jeff revealed that he actually finally seems to have gotten rid of it, which I'm not a fan of that move because I really like the idea of the last rites. It gives everybody that's left in the game a chance to reflect on what they thought of the castaways beforehand, even though obviously some people they just can't say any good things about, but also it gives us the ability to, you know, remember them. It gives us, most of the time, there have been a couple of exceptions, you know, their thoughts on how the game went. So just, yeah, Jeff, you almost made it through this entire season without you doing anything bad, because the past couple seasons before this, you were making numerous problems, just driving me nuts, and then you decided to cave into the fans, pressuring, but also you were interacting with this cast a lot better, and then suddenly you just go, oh yeah, last right, pfft, done. Yeah, talk about being a big slap in the face to all these people, and you say it doesn't mean as much now as it used to. It matters the same amount, okay? And this cast does have a lot of good things to say about everybody else. Jeff! Ugh. So that Day 38 challenge, well, I was hoping that Tony would win, and yeah, the puzzle gets him again, and Wu is able to triumph. And yeah, I was real disappointed by that. And then, of course, Wu has to make the big decision. Does he take Kaz and pretty much guarantee himself $1 million, even though I actually probably would have been pitching in this video that Kaz should have won if that would have happened, like with Rob and Steven, but then, amazingly, he decides to actually vote her out, and when I saw that, I just did one of these, because, yeah, that was, hands down, the biggest sigh of relief I've ever felt watching this show. Yes, more than, Penna winning that immunity, Kim winning the game, Ozzy losing to Sophie, Boston Rob winning that Day 38 immunity, and a couple of others that I felt while watching the show. This one, hands down, was the most... Oh, that was such a relief because I got the feeling that at that point Tony had it. But yeah, if it had been a final 3, then I wouldn't have been complaining because Kaz still would have won that Day 37 challenge, and then it either would have been Wu winning that Day 38 challenge, and then Spencer would have gone, or Spencer would have won that challenge. Tony still would have stayed because everyone believed him, and then Kaz would have gone. You know, so either Tony would have won in one incarnation, or Spencer would have won in the other incarnation, although Tony would have given him a fairly interesting challenge. Huh. Goes to show, Final 2 actually almost screwed them over, so... Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to stand now when it comes to dealing with Final 2 or Final 3. Really, I just want them to just ditch 8-member jury. Have a 7 or a 9-member jury, okay? And also, Jeff, you said that Lindsay quitting actually did have an impact on how many challenges you were going to do? What? You said earlier in the season that that wasn't a factor. And another thing, if you were always planning on doing something like this, why didn't you, make a Final 2 in Philippines when, Dana pulled herself out of the game? Or, heck, my Caramel, where Eric was pulled. Why didn't you do it then? What's the thought process? Again? Huh. Yeah, so there's actually 2 hours you made right at the end. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Okay. And then we get to the jury speeches, and unlike last season, I decided to stick around and view them, and I was amazed at how everybody, attacked those 2, because even though there is some bitterness to it, at the same time, they really did want to know all the questions, because, several of them were there just to make statements, because, Jeremiah, he really wanted to berate Tony. Spencer, he wanted to berate Wu. Trish, she does have a reason to do what she did. And then Jeffra did what I think all the jury wanted, was for Tony to own his game, like Coach failed to do in Survivor South Pacific. Because I think if Coach had stated, yes, I was the mastermind of this, I voted every single one of you out. I decided who went. I wanted to do this, but gameplay forced me to do this and stuff like that. Had he said that, honestly, I think he would have gotten the votes to win. Although it was a little easier for Tony in this situation because it's just one other person, and even then, I think almost everybody on that jury wasn't trying to decide, do I vote for Tony, do I vote for Wu? It's, do I vote for or against Tony? That's the main situation, and I got the feeling that LJ, Trish, and Spencer and such, they all wanted to write his name down, just they wanted him, to answer them well and stuff like that. And there were some that he did fairly well at it, because, he did try with Jeffra, although it was stupid that he said, yeah, I was part of the villain, but I was also part the good guy, because he can't really say hero, but I'm like, the villain is never the good guy, okay? Because Boston Rob, he didn't really transform from a villain to a hero. He just, in HVV, tried to make a game where he said that he was caring for the rest of the tribe, although how well he perceived that in his confessionals, I don't know. It's been forever since I've seen HVV. Right. And stuff like that. And oh yeah, and then the Trish questioning where he states that the only person I really blindsided, I didn't have to, was Trish. You sure about that? Because I'm pretty sure you could say that LJ you blindsided like that, and even LJ tried to question him like that. I mean, Tony does provide pretty much the same reason that he did put into the camera, admitting that LJ was his biggest threat and that there was reason to turn people against him. He did have a just reason, but the big problem is I can't remember what happened first now, because okay, he did reveal in the episode that LJ got booted out the exact same stuff that he revealed here, that both LJ and Wu displayed a willingness to turn on against each other. But the big problem is, who said it first, and was he actually trying to plant the seed in there from the get-go? I can't remember the exact order of things, because I bet if they had seen that exact order, that would have shaken up LJ. But, in the end, it seems like most of the jury chose to listen to Spencer, even though I'm sure most of them were actually leaning towards voting for Tony anyway, because, yeah, even though Tony, was responsible for every single person that left, he voted for the correct person every time, minus Kaz, but of course, since only Wu voted, all you have to do is convince Wu to keep you anyway. And, yeah, he admitted that he was the mastermind, although not as well as everyone was hoping. Controlled everybody, didn't get that many votes, and got people to reasonably like him and trust him because, well, we've seen people play the game like this, because, like, if we compare Tony to Boston Rob and Russell, okay? Tony did Boston Rob's game in All Stars and Redemption Island the very first time, okay? Because as I stated, he got everybody to trust him, was in the majority basically the entire time, was willing to sacrifice people in his alliance, was willing to lie to them, and all that kind of stuff like that. And then get the votes of people to win, although in All Stars it didn't matter who won, come on, let's be realistic here, but yeah, that's the game that Boston Rob played in All Stars. Tony did it right the first time. And then, like with Russell, Tony also admitted that he masterminded people, was playing the game from the get-go, wasn't out there to make friends because, let's face it, Rob did make friends while he was out there because he did try and form some kind of a friendship between Shauna Vesepia and Marquesas. He did get a relationship with the top four and Rob C in All Stars. At least according to Rob Sesternino. I can't remember exactly what he said now. Then he did have a relationship with everybody on the Villains tribe, and then there was the Ometepe 6, both incarnations, enough said. But going back to Tony and the comparison to Russell, Tony admitted the exact same things that Russell did, but he just did it in a better way. Although I haven't seen Samoa, so I can't really comment on how he is there. I just know how Russell reacted to the jury in HVV, okay? But even then, I've seen enough of Samoa to know that Russell did a lot better in Samoa in comparison to HVV. Let me tell you. So I'm not trying to say that necessarily, Tony is better than these two. He just did what Russell couldn't do, and he did what Boston Rob did the first time. So sorry that I repeated myself, but I wanted to thoroughly explain it, okay? And then in the end, the jury 8-1 awards the victory towards Tony, which I was real happy about because we came that close to having a pretty bad winner, and then in the end, the Driver's Seat guy carries it out yet again. Yeah, congrats, Tony. We appreciate it. Okay, other stuff to mention here, because actually, you know what? I'm going to make a different video for that, okay? So now that I've recapped the finale, I'll discuss the reunion and other survival stuff in the next vid, okay? See you then.